moved away. "What is wrong with him? Send him to the infirmary." Ludwig, a usually quiet biologist, made a fist and said, "If Michael goes, so will you." The Pole's eyes narrowed, but he shut his mouth before he headed out into the icy morning air. "Thank you, my friend," whispered Michael. "You'll see, it won't be long now." Abel held him under the arm as casually as possible and helped him to the door. "You can do it." "I will, because I know that Jakob will find my family. Help is coming. I feel it." "Yes, now quiet. Save your strength." "You must believe." "I believe," said Abel automatically as he helped Michael out of the door and down the block alley to the square. It was more crowded than ever since Germany invaded Poland. Abel had heard a guard complaining about the smell. He'd said that the camp should only have 6,000 prisoners, and it now had 19,000. Abel could well believe it. Many of the men who had been arrested after Grinspan killed the Nazi in Paris had been released, but the Germans always found more men to imprison. Czechs from the Sudetenland and then Czechoslovakia itself, now Poland. Who's next? Abel wondered aloud without much interest. He was where he was. A year in hell had taught him that nothing would change it. A guard came charging by, yelling, "Go on there, you stinking Jew!" He raised his baton and cracked a man on the shoulder with it. "What did you say? What did you say?" More guards came, passing Michael and Abel and concentrating on the barracks that held the Jewish prisoners. Grief and guilt washed over Abel, making his heart feel like it was twisting in his chest and wringing out his soul. Michael squeezed his arm. "It is a gift from God." 2 Jewish prisoners went down and were savagely kicked as Michael and Abel shuffled by. "It's unfair," Abel whispered. "It is God's will that we live." Michael sounded strong. His eyes sparkled with fervent belief, or perhaps it was the fever Abel could easily feel through the thin fabric of his ragged shirt. "It is." Abel nodded, but he knew it was Jakob's will that he and Michael lined up with the communists and not the Jews. How the old man had done it wasn't clear, but Abel was sure that it was him. When the first wave of Czechs came into the camp, Jakob had been designated for release, but while he was waiting, the guards decided to make him useful and assigned him to help process the influx of prisoners. Thousands were flooding in, and the system they'd so carefully designed was overwhelmed. Abel hardly saw his dear friend for the next few days, except for a glimpse of him bent over a desk, carefully filling out paperwork, and another when he was being escorted out of his barracks with his meager possessions. The capo, who wasn't as harsh as the others, allowed him to shake Abel's hand. "I will see you again, my Leopold," said Jakob, referring to his son who had died at Dachau and in whose name Jakob had saved Abel. "I hope so," said Abel. Jakob's eyes sparkled under his shaggy brows. "I know so." The capo forced him away before he could say more, but Abel had the strongest feeling that the old man was up to something, and a few hours later he was proved right when his capo came to get him, yelling about mistakes and idiocy. He and Michael were hit and kicked all the way to the shunt room, where prisoners were processed when they arrived. It was the first place where Abel had been beaten without knowing why, and it wasn't the last. After they'd gone inside and been shoved through a door to the long room where prisoners were stripped and catalogued, an SS screamed in their faces and waved paperwork around. Michael and Abel looked at each other in confusion, but all was revealed when the officer ran out of steam. He told them that they were not specific when they were brought in with the filthy Jews and had been catalogued incorrectly. He seemed to think this was a kind of crime, but exactly why wasn't clear. The officer slashed at them with a razor and demanded that they remove their striped pants. They did, shaking so hard that the knocking of their bony knees was audible. Abel fully expected to be cut, possibly slashed to the bone, but, like a miracle, it didn't happen. The officer flung the razor at him and ordered him to remove his badge from his pant leg. Utterly confused, he and Michael removed the red triangle stitched over the yellow triangle. When they tentatively placed them on the desk, the officer threw up his hands and yelled, "Dummkopf!" He pointed at a couple of punch cards on the table.